I'm going to introduce you to a man who doesn't like being introduced in public. He's a very private person. He's brilliant in his own right. And we needed him desperately in all this madness to make some sense out of it. So when we sat him down and sort of vomited all over him with all the ideas that we had, which were all crazy. We're going to make students jump out of planes. We're going to put them in snake farms. We're going to make them handle snakes. We're going to make them dive with sharks. And he's looking at me, and he's an intellectual, and he's an educationist from way back. And he he looked at us and said, hang on, not so fast. One thing at a time. What do you want me to do on all this? He says, sir, first, will you join us in jumping out of a plane? He says, definitely not. He says, I'm a family man, and I've reached a certain age where there's a certain modicum of respectability. I said, that is it. We need your respectability if we are going to get parents to shell out large amounts of money for their children to have a great time in college. Because everybody thinks that if you're having a great time in college, you're not studying. So if you're not studying, then why are we spending so much money on this idiot? Because at the end of it, usko naukri wakri milegi ki nahi? So, and we had promised nothing. We had promised no packages. We had promised no summer training. We had promised nothing. And I said, doctor, he says, are you affiliated to any of the universities? I said, no. He says, then what are you? I said, we're a tribe. We're a clan. So he says, oh. He says, no, but there are 30 years of clan behind you. Because every ex-Genesis person is an alumni. So it's a clan which is very, very tightly knit. So they're all going to help each other eventually. And the jobs are not important because they'll create their own jobs. Because that's the whole idea, that we're going to create entrepreneurs. So eventually, Dr. Mohd sat and created a curriculum for us, which was so exciting. Because he did more than the brief. What he did was, he wrote the beginnings of the rules of engagement, which have existed from 1905 in the business of business. And he said, every batch that passes out has to rewrite these rules. Every batch that passes out has to rewrite these rules, because those rules which they rewrite are the future. These rules are the past. These are the rules that are being taught in every other institution in the world today, with no idea that they have to be rewritten. And the only person who I can think of who actually rewrote rules flamboyantly was Richard Branson, which is why we've named a particular block of the part of the Educational Institute after him. I'm trying to get him to come down and address us address this sometime. I don't think he's going to have the time, or we don't have the money. But nonetheless, Richard Branson is actually what we are looking at in terms of the guy who rewrites rules. And failure is not a bad word. Failure is a learning. So Dr. Mohd, can you come up and tell us how you actually came to terms with the fact that you were dealing with an extremely dynamic and volatile...
As you said, I am the odd one out in this crowd. And when I was talking to some of his associates later on, they recreated our first meeting, which I had with Mr. Pralhad Kakar. I met him for half an hour. And in half an hour, 20 minutes he was speaking. First 20 minutes. And I was listening. And they said that clicked the deal for you. Because for 20 minutes you were listening without obstructing him that what he is saying, so he liked you for that. So I said, okay, if that is the idea, then that is what we need to do in this program. You know, education and the way we work for living in today's world are two mutually exclusive circles. What we learn is in schools, what we learn in colleges, we don't use them in our real life. I have been chairman of Aero Society of India Mumbai branch for 10 years. And I used to go to IIT Bombay to take sessions of IIT Aerospace Department students that after studying aeronautics, why don't you people work in aeronautics field? Because all of them join advertising or finance or some other companies. So all your life, you loved mathematics, you loved physics, you loved aerospace, and then you join Hindustan Unilever and Procter & Gamble in marketing. And still 90% of them go and they leave the field of aeronautics. So the idea is that we have to create a curriculum where they use what they learn here. And that was the challenge. That in most of the educational institutions, they teach what we don't use in our real life. You know what we do in our education institution is, बच्चों को हम समझदार बना देते हैं. समझदारी क्या है? Minimum work, maximum pay. You know, I worked with Air India. I shared with him for 25 years, and I did a lot of programs to change the culture in Air India. I did 3-4 corporate training programs where I trained more than 10,000 people 3 times, and I was succeeded in not changing the culture of Air India. So through training programs, you cannot change the way people work. You know, in Air India, they used to say that why we come here is for 2 punch and 1 lunch. And rest is the responsibility of managers to get things done from us. We don't want to create such people in this institution. So when I was working on the curriculum, we said that, okay, you will be doing all those crazy things, and they will be building the character and stamina for life, but they need to understand the language of business. I told him that in medical science, what we teach in MBBS is language of medicals, medical treatment, body parts. When we teach economics, we teach language of economics. We don't teach actual content, but they become familiar with those particular branches. When we teach people in MBA, we make them familiar with the language of business. They don't know how to conduct business, but they become familiar with language of business. But here in this particular course, when they come out, they not only learn language of business, but they must learn how to conduct.
Smiling face, and does all the beaver-like work and keeps everything together and make sure that the electricity bills are paid, the campus is running tickety-boo, that all the HRD issues are taken care of. And he's the guy who actually runs Whistling Woods. Rahul.
Thank you. That was unexpected. I think when Meghna told me that we were going to meet with Pralhad and talk about how to integrate his school onto ours, initially, I think like a number of people, I was like, I'm not sure about this. How is this actually going to work in terms of, there were a lot of things that they wanted to do, skydiving, scuba diving, all of those things. How is that going to play out in an actual sort of structured learning sort of format? But I realized very quickly after I met Pralhad that, and a lot of the speakers have said the same thing, that is the purpose of the course. The finance, the accounting, the business, all of those things are just, they're the periphery of what students are going to get out of coming to this institution. It is the risk-taking, it's the entrepreneurship, it's the mentorship. And finally, what I hope is that the school will be able to create a new level of entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs. And we have a lot of students that come to Whistling Woods and they study a whole host of different things. One of the challenges that we find with our students when they finish the course is they themselves go out and become entrepreneurs.
Build a brand, they have to sell a product, they have to fit into the profile of the brand. And if they don't understand the business of brands and the value that it creates, then you're dead in the water. So you can be a great filmmaker, but you can't be a great ad filmmaker. Because an ad filmmaker is a different kind of animal. He has to tell a story in 30 seconds, and not only be able to tell a story, but the hero of the story is the brand. So he's always thinking brand, and which is why the brand story and the business of advertising films is a 1 year vertical, which they'll all go through the school of hard knocks. The last person I'd like to come on stage, and she's going to kill me for this, is my wife, who who has been badgering me for the last 20 years to do two things: start a school and write a book. So I've been telling her the book is going to be banned the moment it comes out. The school we might be able to temper, because they will be able to have respectable staff to be able to counter whatever else I'm teaching them. Mitali.